Sponsored by Rabbi Shlomi and Mirala Greenwald. This is a Sicha from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Beis, Parshas Tazria, Sicha Beis. And just to mention before we start that this Sicha is a very, very fundamental Sicha, and it's actually one of the most fundamental Sichos in the entire Likutei Sichos, and it's referenced very often in the Rebbe's Torah. And there are in it many fundamental Chodushim about subjects in Chassidus. So the topic of the Sicha is that in this week's Parsha, we learn that Isha ki Tazria v'yolda Zachar, and Rizal say, Isha mazras tchila yiled Zachar. If the Zera is first from the Isha, then the child that's born is a Zachar. And there are two parts in the Sicha. It's really a very, very long and extensive Sicha. We're just mentioning very briefly, breaking it up into two parts, that the Rebbe will, number one, present the explanation of the Philosophem and the Alter Rebbe on what it means that Isha mazras tchila yiled Zachar. And then number two, and this is the entirety of the Sicha, present what each of these opinions represent in Avodas Hashem. On the pasuk at the very beginning of our parsha of Isha ki Tazria v'yolda Zachar, so Razal said in Masechtas Nida that Isha mazras tchila yeled Zachar. If the Isha is mazras first, meaning if the zera of the Isha is first, then the child that's born is a Zachar. Ish mazria tchila yeled nekeva. And if the Ish is mazria first, meaning that if the zera of the Ish is first, then the child that's born is a nekeva. And the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah brings the explanation of the Philosophem for why this is. They explain that when Isha mazras tchila, when the zera of the Isha is first, then the tipas hazachar comes last. Then the Ish is mazria second. And so, since the Ish is mazria second, so it means that it's on top, and ilo gavar, what's on top, is the one that determines, and so therefore the child is a zachar, meaning that the reason why when Isha mazras tchila say led the zachar is because the tipas hazachar, the zera of the zachar, is second, and that makes a zachar be born. And the reverse, when it's Ish mazria tchila, then the zera of the Isha is second, and as a result of that, the child is a nekeva. So it comes out that the zachar comes from the Ish, and the nekeva comes from the Isha. However, the Alter Rebbe writes that this explanation is very difficult to fit with the words Isha mazras tchila yeled zachar, which implies that the zachar comes from the Isha herself, and not that it actually comes from the Ish. The implication of the words, what it indicates is Isha mazras tchila, that is yeled zachar. And we also see this based on what Rizal said about the children of Yaakov Avinu. Rizal pointed out that by Dinah it says that she is the daughter of Yaakov, so it associates Dinah with her father Yaakov Avinu. And when it comes to the Shvatim, it refers to them as the sons of the Imais, so it associates the Shvatim with the mothers. And Rizal explained that the reason is because Isha mazras tchila yeled zachar, which implies again that there's a connection between the Isha mazras tchila, that causes yeled zachar, and not because the Ish is mazria second. And therefore, because of this, the Alter Rebbe explains that it's the Isha mazras tchila itself that brings about the yeledes zachar. And now we're going to go into what the whole task of the Sicha is. And that is, however, since the explanation of the Philosophem is brought by Gedolei Yisrael that are accepted by all, and especially since the Alter Rebbe brings their explanation, even though he negates it, but he brings it. And if it was entirely incorrect, the Alter Rebbe wouldn't bring it in order to negate it. He just wouldn't mention it at all. So therefore, we must say that their explanation is also acceptable, and it's just that the main explanation is a different explanation, is the one that the Alter Rebbe brings. And so this is essentially the task of the Sicha, to understand the opinion of the Philosophem and the opinion of the Alter Rebbe regarding this Maimer Rizal. The Maimer Rizal of Isha mazras tchila yeled zachar, and Ish mazria tchila yeled nekeva. So this will be understood by first explaining the following. So now we're going to a side teaching, and in this side teaching we're going to discuss what it means Isha mazras tchila yeledes zachar, Ish mazria tchila yeledes nekeva, based on the way it is in Ruchnius. And that's where the whole discussion is going to happen. And as we're going to see throughout the Sicha, we're going to go into a few side teachings. And as we explain those teachings, everything in the original discussion will become clear to us. So the reason why Isha Mazras Tchila Yeledis Zachar and Ish Mazriat Tchila as Yeledis in the Keva is because it's Mishtalshal. It evolves from the way it is in Ruchnius, the way it is spiritually in the higher worlds, just like everything in this world is the way it is, because it's Mishtalshal from the way it is in Ruchnius. So Ish and Isha, the way they are in Ruchnius, are Kadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Ish, and Knesset Yisrael is the Isha. And so when Isha Mazras Tchila, meaning, what does Isha Mazras Tchila mean in Ruchnius? That first there is an Isarusa de Lotata, there's an awakening from below. A person works on themselves. It's the Isha, it's Knesset Yisrael. And then there is an Isarusa de Le'ela as a response. So then it's a Leda Zachar. The result is something which is a Zachar, it's strong, it's powerful, it has a certain permanence, meaning that the result is a Ava Rabbah, something which is on a very high level. It's the Ava of Mili B'Shamayim V'im Chalei Chafatzti. Whereas when it's Ish Mazriat Tchila, meaning that the awakening of a Yid comes from an Isarusa de La'ela, from Ish, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's without an Isarusa L'Tata before it, so then it's Yeledis Nekeva, something which is weak and not as strong. And this is a lesser Ava. And the reason for this is why when it's Ish Mazriat Tchila, then it's only Yeledis Nekeva, and when it's Isha Mazras Tchila, it's Yeledis Zachar, is because the Isarusa de La'ela that comes on its own without any Isarusa L'Tata before it, so even though, as we're going to see later, it's from a very high level, but it's only from the Chitzoni Sa'ar V'Achayas. Since it doesn't come from the Avodah of a person, which is the ultimate purpose of everything, so the level that it comes from, despite it being a very high level, but it only comes from the Chitzoni Sa'ar V'Achayas of that level. Whereas when there's first an Isarusa de L'Tata, which is the whole purpose that there should be the work of a Yid, so then the Isarusa de La'ela, even though it comes from a lower level, nevertheless it comes from the Pnimis Arva Achayis of that level, which creates something which is a Zachar, something much stronger. It creates a Ava Rabbah. So this whole explanation of the way it exists in Ruchnius, the way it is in Ruchnius, is brought by the Alter Rebbe in Likutei. And there's a difficulty over here. And that is, since the birth of the Ava of a Zachar, the Yeled Zachar, comes from the Isarusa de La'ela, it comes from the Hamshachal Milmaila, from Hashem, from the Ish, and the Isarusa de Tata, the Avodah of the Yid, the Isha Mazras Tchila, that comes first, is only in order to draw down an Isarusa de La'ela from the Pnimiyas Ha'er. So then it comes out that the birth of the Zachar doesn't come from the Isha. It doesn't come from the Yid, but rather from the Ish. It comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning you have to have first the preparation, which is the Avodah of the Yid. You have to have the Isha Mazras Tchila. But the way it's then Yeled Zachar is because that brings about Hamshachal Milmaila. It brings about an Isarusa de La'ela from the Pnimiyas Ha'er, which that is Yeled Zachar. And so it comes out that the Yeled Zachar is a result of the Ish, of the Hamshachal Milmaila, of the Isarusa de La'ela. And that is like the opinion of the Philosophem. And so the question is, how does this fit with the explanation of the Alter Rebbe, that the Yeled Zachar comes from the Isha Mazras Tchila itself? It's Zachar because it's Isha Mazras Tchila. According to the explanation in Ruchnius, it comes out that it's not coming from the Isha. We need it to be first Isha Mazras Tchila in order that there should be Hamshachal Milmaila from the Ish, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in such a way that it should be Yeledis Zachar. But what actually makes the Hilada of the Zachar, the Hilada of this Ava Rabbah, is the Hamshachal Milmaila, which means the Zachar comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the Ish. So in order to answer this question, so simply, on a very simple level, we can distinguish between the explanation of the Philosophem and the way the Alter Rebbe explains it in Ruchnius, that according to the explanation of the Philosophem, the birth of the Zachar has nothing to do with the Isha. Because what they explain is that when it's Isha Mazras Tchila, so then it'll be that the Ish is Mazriya Libasayf, and the Zera Ish, that's what makes it to be Yeled Zachar. It's the Tipas HaZachar that makes it be Yeled Zachar. Whereas according to the explanation in Avodas Hashem, the birth of the Zachar, which is the Ava Rabbah that comes from above, it comes from the Isarusa L'Tata. You have to have the Isarusa L'Tata. That's extremely integral and important. That causes, because that's what causes that there should be a Hamshacha from the Pnimiyas Ha'er. So it doesn't fit with the explanation of the Philosophem, because according to the Philosophem, it's a completely side and irrelevant detail that it's Isha Mazras Tchila. That's just an order that now we can have Ish Mazriya afterwards, and then you'll have the Tipus Azachar that comes second, and Ilah Gavar, and therefore it's Yeled Zachar. Whereas according to the explanation of the Alter Rebbe in Avodas Hashem, the Isserusal Tata is integral. That's what causes that the Amshach Momailo should come from the Pnimi Sa'er, and that it should result in Yeled Zachar. However, this is not a good enough answer, because this only distinguishes between the explanation of the Philosophem and the explanation that the Alter Rebbe gives in Ruchnius, that it doesn't fit perfectly with the explanation of the Philosophem. However, this isn't enough, because ultimately, in the explanation of the Alter Rebbe and Avodas Hashem, the birth of the Zachar doesn't come from the Isha herself, but rather from the Ish, because the Isserusal de Tata is only a cause that the Isserusal de La'ela should be from the Pnimi Sa'ar, but it's the Isserusal de La'ela and the Amshacha from the Pnimi Sa'ar that brings about Yeled Zachar. And that doesn't fit with the explanation of the Alter Rebbe that it's the Isha Mazras Tchila itself that's Yeled Zachar. And so even though it doesn't fit perfectly with the explanation of the Philosophem, it doesn't either fit perfectly with the explanation of the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe is bringing it as an explanation, the way it is in Ruchnius, to show that it's the Isha Mazras Tchila itself which brings about Yeled Zachar. And the explanation in Likutei Torah doesn't fit perfectly with that. So in order to understand this, we're going to present now another side teaching. It would seem that the Ur Chaim gives a similar explanation to the explanation in Likutei Torah. The Ur Chaim writes, Knesset Yisrael nikras Isha. Knesset Yisrael is called Isha. And so Isha ki Tazria, the meaning of the pasuk, Pirush, it means Hazros mitzvahs ma'asim tevim. It means that a yid does avodah, he does mitzvahs, he does ma'asim tevim, and then v'yolda zachar. Then it'll give birth to a zachar, which is he b'chinas al yenim b'chinas an nekeva. It's a higher level than the level of nekeva. And what's the pasuk saying here? V'yidia akosov. The pasuk is here informing us Kim Knesset Yisrael Tazria, that if Knesset Yisrael will do mitzvahs and ma'asim tevim, so then Vade Sheteled Hadargas Al Yenis, it'll definitely give birth to very high levels. V'hu Maimer Azal, this is telling us over here, Eitzam Aflogas Haflois Asher Yafli Hashem Bevias Hagel, the great things that Hashem will do when Mashiach comes. V'yechaven, and the intent over here is Lahavdil bin Agula Asida Leguula She'aver Shel Mitzrayim. It's in order, the intent over here is to distinguish between the Geula when Mashiach comes and the Geula that we had of leaving Mitzrayim, where then Shahay Yisrael Aram Ve'arya, the Yidden were naked, they didn't have mitzvahs and ma'asim tevim. Va'isa Geula, and that Geula was like a nekeva. Loi Omad, it didn't last. Ki nechar v'bayis v'galu, because the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and the Yidden went to Galus. Ve'ein teva zu b'pchinas zachar. This is not on the level of zachar. Aval Geula asida letzad shal kol panim tia be'emtzos schus Yisrael. But the future Geula, because it's going to come about through the aveda of Knesset Yisrael, so therefore tia Geula b'pchinas zachar, it's going to be in the level of Zachar v'amdol netzach, and it will stay and last forever. And the Gula Asida, we know, will come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's just that it's through the schus of the Yidden. So this is similar to the explanation, it seems like it's the same explanation as the Alter Rebbe is in Likutei Torah, that through the Aveda of Isha Tazria, of the Yidden, of Knesset Yisrael, that their Isha Mazras Tchila, they do their Avodah, so then V'yolda Zachar, there will be a Halada of something which comes from Hashem, which Alter Rebbe talks about the Avarabba, and the Ur Chaim talks about the Gula Asida. But both of them talk about that there is a Isha Mazras Tchila, there's the Avodah of Knesset Yisrael, and then V'yolda Zachar, something which is born, which is in the level of Zachar, that comes about from Hashem, that comes from Amshacham Omayla, whether it's the Avarabba, or whether it's the Geula that Hashem will bring. So even though we said that it seems that the explanation of the Ur Chaim is similar to that of the Alter Rebbe's, however, the truth is that the explanation of the Ur Chaim and the explanation of the Alter Rebbe are different. And we see this based on what the Alter Rebbe explains elsewhere in the Likutei Torah. he says over there that even though the Isserus Le'ela that comes after an Isserus L'Tata has a greatness, that it draws down from the Pnimius Ha'er V'Achayis, nevertheless, there's still a greatness to the Isserus Le'ela that comes on its own, without any Isserus L'Tata. And that is that it comes from a higher level. It comes from a higher level where Isserus L'Tata cannot reach. Whereas the Isserus Le'ela that comes after an Isserus L'Tata is only from a level that a person is able to reach to. And it's just that from that level, because it comes from the Avodah V'Yid, which that's the ultimate purpose of everything, therefore it draws down from the Pnimius Ha'er of that level. But the level that it reaches is only a level that's Shaykh, that a person could reach to. It has to have a connection to the person because it comes about through the Avodah of the person. So it's from a lower level. And over there, in that Maimer Likutei, the Alter Rebbe explains that there's also a third level in Isserus Le'ela. And that is an Isserus Le'ela that the Isserus L'Tata cannot reach, meaning it's much higher, just like the first one. However, it only rests and it's only revealed once there's a shlemus in the person's Isserus L'Tata. So it comes out that there's three Isserus Le'elas. There's an Isserus Le'ela that comes on its own, not as a result of the person's Aveda, and it comes from a very high level. However, what comes down from there is just a Chetzonius Ha'er V'Achayis. Then there's an Isserus Le'ela that comes about through the Avodah V'Yid, through an Isserus L'Tata, and that Isserus Le'ela is from a lower level. It's from a level that the Isserus L'Tata is able to reach to. And then when it's drawn down from the Pnimis Ha'er V'Achayis of that level. And then there's a third Isserus Le'ela. This is a level that's higher than the Avodah of the Yid. However, it doesn't come about on its own. It'll only come about and it's only revealed once there's already a shlemus in the Avodah of the Yid, that the Yid did everything he's able to do in his Isserus L'Tata. Then this third level of Isserus Le'ela is revealed. And the Alter Rebbe concludes over there that these three levels of Isserus Le'ela, they're close to the idea of the three times of Pesach, Sfiras HaEmer, and Shavuos. Because Pesach is a time when there was Isserus Le'ela on its own. It's a time of Dilug, of Gilui. That's like the first Isserus Le'ela. It's nothing to do with the Avodah of the person. Sfiras HaEmer is a time of when a person works on his Nefesh Bahamis, on a person works on their Midas. So that's the Isserus Le'ela that comes about through the Isserus L'Tata. And then Shavuos is a time when the Shara Nun, which is a level which is entirely above the person's Avodah, but it's drawn down after a person does everything they're able to do during Sfiras HaEmer, in the Memtes days of the Emer, and they draw down what they're able to draw down after they did that in its completion and Shleimus. So then this Shara Nun, which is entirely above a person's Avodah, is revealed, because there's already a shleimus in the person's Avodah. And so it's understood based on this that explanation in the Orach Chaim and the explanation of the Alter Rebbe are different, because the Alter Rebbe is talking about the Isserus Le'ela that comes after an Isserus L'Tata. Like he talks over there in the Maimer, that through Isha Mizras Tchila, that you have the Avodah of the Yid, then it's Yeledes Zachar, that you have Amshacham or Milo, that comes after the Isserus L'Tata as a direct result of it, which brings about a strong Ava, and that's like Sfiras HaEmer. In other words, it's a Isserus Le'ela that comes about after the Isserus L'Tata and a direct result of it. It's a level that a person can reach through their Avodah. And the Orach Chaim, it talks about the Gula Asida, which the Gula Asida is the highest of revelations, even those that are completely above a person. So that's talking about the third Isserus Le'ela, like Shavuos, because the Orach Chaim says it comes after the Avodah of the Yid. So that's talking not about the first Isserus Le'ela, that has nothing to do with the Avodah of the Yid, but he talks about an Isserus Le'ela of the Gula Asida, which is the levels that are entirely above the Avodah of the Yid. So that's talking about the third Isserus Le'ela, the one that corresponds to Shavuos. According to this, so it comes out that in the teaching of Razal, that Isha Mazras Tchila Yeled Zachar, we have two explanations. One explanation on Isha Mazras Tchila, and one explanation on Yeled Zachar. And in each of them, there are different and contradictory explanations. On Isha Mazras Tchila, so does it come from the Isha herself, like what it seems like Chazal are saying here, that the Isha Mazras Tchila, that is Yeled Zachar, or does the Isha just cause it, like the explanation that the Alter Rabbi gives in Ruchnius, that it causes the Hamshacham Omaylo when it's Isha Mizras Chila. That causes the Hamshacham Omaylo that should be led to Zachar. And on Yoled Zachar, also there, is it what a person can reach? Is that the level of Zachar? Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei, that it's a direct result of the Avodah of the Yid. So that's a level that the person is able to reach. Or is the Zachar, is it a level that's completely higher than what a person can reach? And so it comes out that in each of them, there are different and contradictory explanations. On Isha Mizras Tchila, we have an explanation that it's actually the Avodah of the Isha herself. We have an explanation that it's the Avodah of the Isha itself that causes it, the Hamshacha Mamayla. And on Yoled Zachar, is that a level that a person is able to reach, or is that a level that's completely above what a person can reach, like the Ur Chaim says? And so we can say that these explanations are actually connected to one another. According to the explanation that the Isserus de Le'ila is just a cause, it's not the Avodah of the Isha that actually draws, that creates it. It causes Amshacha Mamayla. So then the greatness of the Zachar is only that it's from the Pnimius or Vachais, but it's not a level that's entirely above the world, like the explanation that the Alter Rebbe gives in Likutei. But when Knesset Yisrael go up to a higher level, a level that the birth comes from the Isha herself, as we're going to explain throughout the next part of the Sicha, so then this brings about a much higher level. It brings about the drawing down of the Pnimius of a level that's entirely above the world. And so that's basically placing over here what it is that we're going to explain in the next part of the Sicha. What are these two different things? So the first one we really spoke about already from Likutei, but what's the second one? That when Knesset Yisrael go up to a higher level, that the birth comes from the Isha herself, and it's not just a cause for it, so then this brings about a much higher level, which is the Pnimius of a level that's entirely above the world. In order to explain this, we're now going to go into another discussion, a related discussion, because what we're talking about over here is Isha Mazras Tchila, Yoled Zachar, which refers to the Avodah of Yid, the Isha Mazras Tchila, and the Yoled Zachar, the Hamshacha Mamayla. And we're going to go into a related discussion that talks both about the Isha Mazras Tchila, the Avodah of the Yid, and the Yoled Zachar, the Hamshacha Mamayla. So all of this will be understood by first explaining what's the greatness of Avodah. Why is Avodah such a great thing? So one of the explanations is that because through Avodah, the kavanah of Nis'ava Kadosh Baruch Hu, Liyisle, Dir B'Tachtenim, is fulfilled. It's Avodah that accomplishes this. Why? What's the explanation? Why is it that Avodah is able to accomplish this and nothing else? So the explanation is the kavanah of Dir B'Tachtenim. What is the definition of Dir B'Tachtenim? What does it mean? Is that the Tachtenim, from their place and their being, they should become a Dir Le'Yizbarach. It has to be that they become the Dira. Dira b'tachtenim means that Tachtenim are Tachtenim, and they, as Tachtenim, become a Dira Le'Yizbarach. And that's why it has to be done through the Avodah of Neshamas Yisrael that are Neshamas Begufim. Because specifically then, the Tachtenim become a Dira Le'Yizbarach, because it's accomplished through Neshamas Yisrael, but the way they are Neshamas Begufim, meaning that they are in the Tachtenim. And so then, they're engaged with the Tachtenim from the place and the state of the Tachtenim, and that way they could, through the Avodah, make a Dir Le'Yizbarach in the Tachtenim. But this is not so if the Dir was made through a Gilui, a revelation from above. Because then, if Hashem just brought a revelation into the world, then the Tachtenim themselves, from their place and being, did not become a Dir Le'Yizbarach. It's just that Hashem revealed himself, disregarding and completely disassociated from the Tachtenim. Hashem's revealed, there's a revelation here, but it's not a Dira in the Tachtenim itself. So it has to come about through Avodah, and that's one of the explanations for why Avodah is so great, because Avodah is what's able to fulfill this Nis'ava Kadosh Baruch Hu, the ultimate purpose of everything, that there should be a Dir Le'Yizbarach. It's only able to be accomplished through Avodah, and that's one of the explanations for why the Avodah of a Yid is something which is so great and so precious and important. Now, continuing in this theme, so since the Dir B'Tachtenim has to be made specifically through Avodah, so we must say that even the greatest Giluyim that Isserus L'Tata doesn't have the ability to reach, levels that are way beyond what Isserus L'Tata can reach, they're also drawn down through Avodah. Why do we have to say this? Because as it's known, the Dir Le'Yizbarach, when we say we have to make a Dir Le'Yizbarach B'Tachtenim, it has to be in Tachtenim, but who is it a Dir for? It's a Dir L'Atzmusay, for the very essence of the Eibishter, which the essence of the Eibishter is a level which is entirely above what Isserus L'Tata is able to reach. But since, as we said, it all has to come about through Avodah, because that's the only way that the Dira is in the Tachtenim. So we must say that even the highest of levels are also drawn down through Avodah. And so if we say that Avodah, like we just said, that Avodah only draws down the levels where the Isra Tata is able to reach, but the higher levels are given as a gift, then it comes out that the whole Avodah is only a preparation and cause for the Dira. But the Dira itself is made from a revelation from above, and that's not going to be a dira in the tachtenim, because it has nothing to do with the tachtenim. It's just a revelation that came from above. It was given as a gift. And this idea that everything has to come about through Avodah is also proven from Tanya. The Alter Rebbe also says in Tanya that all of the revelations, when Mashiach come, that all of those revelations, they come about through the Avodah V'Yid. And so we must say that even the levels that are entirely above what Yisrael Tata could reach, they're also drawn down through Avodah. And the question is, it's not understood. How does this fit with what the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei that through Avodah we only draw down from the level that Yisrael Tata is able to reach, and anything from a higher level is only drawn down as a gift from above? Here we're saying that it's integral, that it should all be through the Avodah V'Yid, and the Alter Rebbe says that the Avodah V'Yid can only draw down from the levels that Yisrael Tata is able to reach to, and the higher levels, like the Shara Nun, like what we said about Shavuos, is only given as a gift. The third level of Yisrael Leila is a gift from above once there's shleimus in a person's Avodah. How do these two things fit? The explanation of all of this is as follows, and this is going to be a very long piece. It's going to be divided in two. So, Olam Haza Tachten, this world that we live in, is, as the Alter Rebbe writes, Mole Klippus v'Sitra Achra, Shei Neged Hashem Mamish. It's full of Klippus and Sitra Achra, that they are Mamish against Hashem. Now, from this is understood that making the Dir B'Tachtenim isn't Giloi Ahelim of the good that's here. The making of the Dir B'Tachtenim is not a process of Giloi Ahelim, that there's darkness in the world, and the goodness is hidden, and we have to reveal the good, Gilui Yehelim, because this avodah of Gilui Yehelim isn't enough at all, since this world, as the Alter Rebbe writes, is Malay Klippus Sitra Achra. Meaning, what does the word Malay mean? The Rebbe explains it means that it's a Kli for Klippus. That's its identity. That's a Kli for Klippus. And so Gilui Yehelim is not enough, but rather it has to be in a way of Ischachos, creating something entirely new. Because the identity of the world on its own is one that it's a kli for klippus and sitra achra. And since the power of ischachos, of making something entirely new, is in atzmusi yisbarach, in the essence of Hashem, just like He's the only one that can be mechadash yesh ma'ayin, so it's understood that this that Yidden make the dir b'tachtenim in a way of ischachos is because Yisrael v'kudshu birchu kul echad. It's because Yidden and Hashem are totally one. And that's why Yidden have the koyach atzmos, because they're one with Hashem, and therefore they have this koyach atzmos of ischachos. According to this, it's understood why the avodah v'yid brings about the amshachas ha'atzmos, even though the avodah of nevroim, of creations, is only able to reach its source. The reason is because there is koyach ha'atzmos in a yid that is expressed in a Yid's ability to transform Olam Haza, this world, that's Mole Klippus v'Sitra Achra to Kedusha. And so therefore, through this Avodah, the Koyach HaAtzmos that's in a Yid is revealed, and as a result of this Koyach, the drawing down of Atzmos is accomplished through Yidden. In other words, this idea that Yisrael Tata only reaches the level that's connected to the world is only when we look at the level of the world. And then anything that's drawn down from a higher level, we say is given as a gift. But when we look from the perspective of the Koyach HaAtzmos and Yidden, that's revealed through the Avodah of Bir v'Zikuch of this world, that's Molei Klippus v'Sitra Achra, to turn it into a godly world, so then even the drawing down of levels that are above any connection to the world, and even the drawing down of Atzmos, which is the highest of everything, comes from their Avodah itself. So only when we look at it from the perspective of the Tata, then it's true to say that there are levels that a person is able to draw down, and then there are levels that are above a person. But when we look at it from the perspective of the Koyach HaAtzmos that every Yid has, that is revealed through this Avodah of making a Dir B'Tachtenim, so then even the Amshach of Atzmos comes about through the Avodah of the Yid itself. Because when a Yid is doing his Avodah of turning Olam Haza into a Dir Le'Yizbarach, that's bringing out the koyach of his chachos and a Yid that comes from the koyach Atzmos that's inside of a Yid. And so it comes out that it comes from the Avodah itself. That being said, we have to add that, however, even though the making of the dira is from the koyach ha'atzmos that's in Yidden, but nevertheless, since the kavanah of dira b'tachtenim is that the tachtenim should become a dira b'tachtenim from their place and from their state of being, so therefore it has to be that the making of the dira should be in such a way that it's felt that it's being made not because of the koyach ha'atzmos in Yidden, which then it's something which is being, so to speak, imposed on the world and is not connected to the world, but rather because of the koyach of the neshamas themselves, which is avodah b'koyach atzmai. Because then we're talking about neshamas begufim that are in the world, connected to the world, and that those neshamas begufim Yidden, through avodah, they change the world to be a dir b'tachtenim. So it can't come about originally straight from koyach atzmos, but rather it has to be that first is avodah b'koyach atzmai in a way of isrus l'otata, and therefore the beginning of the amshacha that comes through avodah is from the source of the world. It's a level that isrus l'otata is able to reach. But after the isrus l'otata and the isrus l'leila that follows, that comes through it, meaning after everything that's connected to the worlds is completed, so then the pnimius of the avodah is revealed. The pnimius of the avodah emerges, and that is the koyach ha'atzmos that's in Yidden. It comes out that the koyach ha'atzmos that Yidden have because it's Yisrael v'kutsha b'chu kol echad. And then even the level that's above what Yisrael Data is able to reach, and all the way up to atzmos, also those levels are drawn down. So because it has to be a dir b'tachtenim from the place and the state and the being of the tachtenim, so therefore it starts off with avodah b'koyach atzmai, the way neshama is in a guf, and according to the level that a person can reach through a tata, a place that is connected to nevraim, to creation. But after a person does everything that they're able to do in that capacity, both the Isur Tata and the Isur Leila that's drawn down as a result, so then the pnimius of what this avodah is really all about is revealed. Meaning that the koyach ha'atzmos that's in Yidden is revealed, that has the ability to be mechadish, the Sichos, to turn this world, that's moli klippus of sitra achra, into a dir b'tachtenim. And so then the highest of levels, all the way up to atzmos, are also drawn down. Now we're going to go back to a previous part of the Sicha, and we're not going to directly go back to all the parts of the Sicha, but based on what we're going to explain here, all the previous parts of the Sicha will also be understood. So according to this, we'll understand the two explanations about the Zachar. Like we said, is it what a person can reach, or is it completely higher than what a person can reach? So we'll understand the two explanations about the Zachar that's born through the Isha Mazras Tchila, and their connection to how the birth comes about through the Isha Mazras Tchila. Like we said, does it come from the Isha herself, or does the Isha just cause it? And the explanation is, when the Isha is just a cause, like the explanation of the Philosophim, that the Isha is a cause for it. And in Ruchnis, what does this mean? That the Avodah of Yidden and the Amshacha Mamayla are like two things. And it's just that the Avodah of Yidden is the cause that the Isrus Leila should be from the Pnimius Ha'er. So when it's that the Avodah draws down in Isrus Leila, so then the level that comes from it is only one that's connected to the world. Because since the Avodah of Yidden is an Isrus L'Tata, so it's impossible for a creation to reach beyond its source. So this is the explanation that when we say Isha Mazras Tchila is just a cause, then the Yeled Zachar is only the level that a person can reach. Because there's the Avodah of the Yid that causes something else to happen. And what is the Avodah of Yid able to cause to happen outside of the Yid? That's Hamshacha from a level that a Yid could reach to. So that's one of the explanations of Isha Mazras Tchila, that it's a cause, and one explanation for Yeled Zachar, that it's a level that Yisrael Tata is able to reach to. But after the completion of the Avodah, when it's revealed that Yisrael v'kutsha b'chu kol echad, where then also the Amshacha Momaila is associated with themselves, because within the Yidden we have the Koyach Atzmos. which we'll get back to this parentheses in a moment. So then it's associated with Yidden themselves. That's the Isha Mazras Tchila, mamish, through the Isha Mazras Tchila to Yiled Zachar. Not that it's a cause for it, because it's something which is within the Yidden themselves. And then the level that's drawn down is the third Isserus of the Le'ela, which is above any connection to the creations, any connection to the world whatsoever. So in the second way over here, we're saying that when it's Isha Mazras Tchila, because of the Koyach HaAtzmas that's in Yidden, so then it's directly from Yidden, and it's not just a cause for it. And Yiled Zachar is referring to a level that's completely higher than the world's, all the way up to Atzmas. And because of this second one, that's why it is here. That's the parentheses, which is then Mishtalshal, to be that way in Gashmias, because in Ruchnius, Isha Mazras Tchila, in this second explanation, that it's literally the Isha Mazras Tchila that brings about the Yiled Zachar because of the Koyach Atzmas and Yidden. That's why Begashmius, when Isha Mazras Tchila, that directly brings about that there should be Yiled Zachar. And the Sicha concludes with connecting this to the time. According to all the above, we'll also understand the connection between Parshas Tazria and Sfiras HaImer, which in most years we read Parshas Tazria during Sfiras HaImer. Regarding Sfiras HaImer, like we said before, it says Tisber Chamishim Yom. And the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei that even though we only count 49 days, which are the Mem Tes Sharei Bina, but we don't count the 50th day because we can't reach that level at all. But rather, the way it works is that it's drawn down on its own without us counting. Nevertheless, it's only drawn down after first doing Sfiras HaImer, and therefore it says Tisper Chamishim Yom, that we do count the 50 days, even though we don't, but because it's only drawn down through the Hagdama, the introduction, by first doing the work of Sfiras HaImer, and that work is done through a Yid, therefore it says Tisper Chamishim Yom, because the Torah considers it as if we did it. And that's the connection between Isha Tazria v'Yolda Zachar and Sfiras HaImer, because in Yolda Zachar there are both of these points. In the beginning, the Zachar from Isha Tazria is the Mem Tes Sharei Bina, like Sfiras HaImer. And afterwards, the Yolda Zachar is the higher level, the Shara Nun. And also, like we explained throughout the Sicha, this is also born from the Isha Tazria, similar to what it says, Tisbur Chamishim Yom, that the Torah considers it as if we did it because it comes about after, and like we explained in the Sicha, actually directly through our Avodah.